Welcome, welcome on this great, great Sunday. There's a lot of things going on today. I heard about the Super Bowl. I heard about that. It is also Groundhog Day. So I'm thinking that if we're feeling stuck somewhere in our lives, is there something going on where we see, oh my God, I'm in the same situation again? Maybe today there's a tool that we can use to unstuck ourselves. How does that sound? Yeah. And then there's something else happening. Do you know that today is, let me see if I can get this word right, palindrome. We have the day today is a palindrome. And you know how often that happens? Once, hardly ever, or once in a millennium. Once in a millennium, because it's, if you write 0202 2020, isn't that great? So I feel it's like a very important day, and we have a lot of things to share. And I am so grateful that you are here, because without your energy, this wouldn't happen. I want you to really be clear, and this is for the people in this sanctuary, as well as those beloveds who are coming to us via this wonderful technology, that without your presence, without your consciousness, without that what you give into this room, into this experience, if you're watching this today or sometime in the future, it would not happen. It would be different. We will never again be together as we are right now in this very moment. And I'd like us to take a moment and acknowledge that just for ourselves, however you do that. You might close your eyes for a moment or just breathe into that. That who I am in this moment, I will never again be. Because everything that is happening is changing us. Thank you. If you have been part of the New Vision community, you know that we love our annual themes. It's something that Reverend Dr. Penny Masick brought. Thank you very much. And we loved it, and we deepen into it. And we live the entire year in relationship with that annual theme. And I think it's so special because it comes from all of you. It comes from the survey that we put out in May, and we analyze it and vision over it. And it brought us this amazing theme this year that is grounded in love and growing in grace. And I love the picture. I love the picture that we selected of the tree, because you can really think about how important it is for the roots to go deep in. They say a tree can only grow as far and as wide as the roots it has developed. And so I'm so grateful that we spend this time always at the beginning of the year to anchor into the fundamentals of our teaching. That we really look at what is it that we say we believe, because everything is built upon that. Grounded in love, growing in grace. The other thing that happened this year, in the past years, we would have a theme a month, a monthly theme, and every month we would have a different theme. And we felt a little the desire to go deeper. So this year, instead of having 12 monthly themes, we're having 7 seasons. And today is the first day that we are expanding into a season, and we are continuing to talk about the nature of the divine. Because we can never, ever, ever, well, I don't get tired of it, I don't know about you, but I cannot, I should speak for myself, I cannot ever, ever get tired of finding out new ways how Spirit supports me, loves me. guides me and directs me. And so today, our talk is titled, Our Divine Inheritance. Our Divine Inheritance. And I spent the whole week with this title and really thinking about it. What is that? What is it that we are given without having to do anything for it? That is just bestowed upon us. And I assume that everybody has a little different wording for that. For me, it's grace. It's grace. And it wasn't until I found the Science of Mind teaching that I developed a very different relationship with the God of my understanding. You see, I grew up in Germany, and I grew up with a God who was not within me, but rather an entity out there that at times I was taught to fear. At times I was taught to be a certain way, to do certain things, to please this entity. That was the God that I grew up with. And many of us here in this community grew up, and there's a dialogue in the world that is how the world is organized, and that really is what God is. And that's great if it works for someone. It didn't work for me. And here's what it did. What happened was that every time there was an issue in my life, there was a problem, I thought I did something wrong. And it wasn't until I discovered this teaching and I heard Ernest Holmes say it this way: all problems, regardless of their nature or size, resolve themselves into one basic problem. We have not accepted our full spiritual inheritance. It was when I learned that, when I heard that in those Science of Mind classes and sitting in this sanctuary and listening to this very, very different way of looking at the world, that I thought, what is my divine inheritance? Can it really be that what we so freely sing and so freely hear in those amazing spiritual mind treatments every Sunday, can it really be that I am, that you are, that we are whole, perfect, and complete just the way we are? It is the fundamental belief of this teaching that that is the truth. And it still brings me to tears. It brings me to tears when I make enough space in my beingness, if I let go of this idea that I have to look a certain way or be a certain way or be able to form very complicated sentences in a different language. You know, that I still have within me this idea that I need to be somehow different than who I am. I truly believe that if we can accept that fully, if I can accept fully who I am, if I can lean in with individuals who accept that truth fully, that it is that moment that I really accept that inheritance. And so some of you might say, Karen, that sounds like grace. Yeah. For many people, that is grace, right? We are in the foundations class, and just this last Tuesday, we had our third class, and the whole focus of that class is grace. And we spent some time everybody sharing their individual experience, what grace is. And it was amazing to listen to the different experiences. When one would say, I experienced grace, this is what happened. Some very, we might call mundane things, and other really big things. Grace. How does Ernest Holmes, the founder of this teaching, define grace? He says, grace is the givingness of spirit to its creation, which is all of us, and is not a special law, but a specialized one. In other words, grace is, but we need to recognize it. It is not something God imposes upon us, but is the logical result of the correct acceptance of life and of a correct relationship to the Spirit. Yeah, that is what we are yearning for, is it not? This idea that God is all there is, Spirit is everywhere present, and it's just waiting patiently for us, for me to open myself up, to trust it, to believe it, to give my entire being into it, so that I may become a conduit of the goodness, of the grace, of the inspiration, of everything that is good to come through me. That is what I believe we are called into. Let's take a breath, because it sounds like a big order, does it not? It is vast. And yet, when we see the little ones, they are so able to do it. I got a chance to spend some time with my granddaughter, and we went for a walk. I've been doing this. I've walked this street down 20 times. I've never did that. Right? The most important thing in her life became that flower. She wanted to smell it. How would our life be different if we would let go for just a few precious moments and allow something that is creation to become the most important thing? Yeah. You feel the stillness that happens, the calmness. Rachel Naomi Raymond is a medical doctor who I absolutely adore. And she speaks about prayer this way. She says, prayer is not a way to get what we want to happen, like the remote control that comes with a television set. I think that prayer may be less about asking for the things we are attached to than it is about relinquishing our attachments in some way. So, how can we relinquish our attachments? And I don't know about you, but every once in a while, I am fascinated how attached to some things I really am. Yeah. It sometimes shows up as judgments. Oh, that shouldn't be that way. Why is that this way? That should be different. Every time I hear myself should, I remind myself that's an attachment. Rachel goes on saying, it can take us beyond fear, which is an attachment, and beyond hope, which is another form of attachment. It can help us remember the nature of the world and the nature of life, not on an intellectual level, but in a deep and experiential way. And I think this points really towards how we can accept and receive our divine inheritance. when we pray, we don't change the world, we change ourselves. We change our consciousness. Because that is what we say in this teaching, right? Whatever is created out there, whatever I see out in the world, has something to do what's happening within me, how I perceive things, and how I call forth that what's happening. Now, I know, many are saying, no, I did not create this conundrum, this problem, this challenge, this fill in the blank. And yet, that's what Ernest Holmes said in that first quote, right? Everything that we perceive as a problem is because we have not received our inheritance yet, our divine inheritance. The fundamental tool for us to relate to the divine is prayer, is our form of affirmative prayer. Every time when you hear someone say, oh, I'm going to go and get a treatment, after service over here in the prayer zone, our amazing practitioners, these beloveds who have dedicated their life to learn this teaching, and more importantly, to apply it in their life every day. Every day. And they are trained to not only see it for themselves, but also to see this truth for another. And so they're offering what we call a spiritual mind treatment. Ernest Holmes, the founder of this teaching, was a beautiful prayer. He prayed well. He prayed very, very well. And at that time, and he had a lot of manifestations for people around him. And so at that time, a group of people came to him and said, can we put that into a system so people can take it and learn how to do that? And so he shared what he really does. And people around him started to put together these 5 steps of treatment. Now, when you listen to a prayer by Dr. Ernest Holmes, you usually don't hear those 5 steps because he didn't quite follow them. Now, for those foundations students in this room, not an option. For the next 10 weeks, we are going to learn the 5 steps, just saying. But I think these steps are really, really helpful for us to gain a way to bring forth that what we want to create in our life. And so we're going to go briefly through them. So I invite us first to think about something that you would like to have a little different experience about, whatever that might be. And just hold it in your heart as we go through these 5 steps. The first step, and we have it right up there, is recognition. It's a recognition, and that is really, you could say, for the last 4 weeks, we have been, as a community, in the recognition step, because we have been talking about the allness of life. We have talked about that which is greater than we are, and how does it make itself known in our lives. And so it's helpful to answer this question in that first step. What is the nature of God? God is omnipotent, omnipresent, all-knowing, everywhere present, made manifest in unlimited ways, as you, as me. And so that brings us to the second step, which is the unification step. So if God is all there is, then I am of it. It can't be any other way. And so the question there might be, what is my relationship in God then? Who am I being in this prayer? The third step is a realization. And that is where acceptance comes in. Because we can only receive that which we are willing to accept. So what am I willing to accept? What good am I willing to have in my life? What beliefs am I willing to lay down that have prevented me from receiving that good so that I can truly become this vessel of the divine? And sometimes we can't do that for ourselves, right? When I find myself in a spot where I cannot see it, I go to my practitioner, to my minister. I go to Reverend Karen, to Reverend Leslie, and I ask for prayer. Because just imagine if I would come to you and say, you know, I cannot see the good in me right now. I just can't see it. How easy might it be for you to see it in me? Right? In another. And then the fourth step is thanksgiving. I'm so grateful for this truth. I'm just so grateful. Gratitude is the big engine that makes all of this work. And so the question that we might answer is, what is the nature of my gratitude? What is the nature? And then finally, it is the release step, and it's so important. And I always think about the gardener. When you plant the seeds, do you then go looking if they're really growing? Let's see, are you really growing? No. No. The gardener plants the seeds and then walks away, caring for it, but not having to see how it is unfolding. So that, my dears, I believe is the ultimate tool to bring forth our ability to accept that which is so freely given by the divine. Because I believe that our goal, our charge, our invitation is to duplicate the nature of spirit in our lives. I am so grateful you're on this journey with me. And so it is. And so let us do exactly that. I ask the practitioners of this teaching, the ministers, please rise. Let us take our place in speaking a spiritual mind treatment for this day, for this moment, for this congregation, for this life we get to live. And so I recognize that God is all there is. It is love, it is light. It is showing up so beautifully in the beautiful sunrise and the warmth of the sun. In every beloved, in every beautiful tree, in every grass of blade of grass. And as I open myself up to see the divine, to be in awe of its mighty creation, I recognize that this divine essence is within me, as it is within every person. For at the very center of our being, we are the love of the divine. We are the essence and the spark of this grandness. So breathing into that space, opening up to the truth. I claim for each beloved within the sound of my voice, grace, the recognition of the grace that is already present. For each beloved who put a prayer request into our prayer box in the lobby, I hold that their prayers are being heard, that the manifestation is assured, for it is grounded and deeply steeped in the all-knowingness of life. How very grateful I am. How very, very grateful to know this, to experience it, to know it for myself and for each beloved here. All is already done. In the mind and heart of the divine, it is already complete. And so there's nothing else for us to do but to release this word into that law, to let it go. And so I call it good and very, very good. And so it is.